You lie still. The quiet around you has begun to thicken, soft and slow, like dusk settling over a forgotten landscape. Your breath, even and deep, rises and falls like distant dunes. You are not quite asleep, but the waking world has started to blur. Sounds fade. Thoughts loosen their grip. Beneath your body, the mattress feels like the floor of a distant land, sun-warmed and silent, as if it remembers the press of thousands of feet long vanished, somewhere far beneath the surface of the earth, and perhaps also within your own memory, the remains of forgotten cities rest. They don't cry out for attention. They don't compete with the noise of today, but they linger in fragments of stone, in faded pigments on clay walls, in the arrangement of earth where once there was purpose. Their stories are not loud. They are whispered in the hush of dust and breeze, in the slow exhale of time itself. Tonight, you begin a journey into those hushed places, not as a historian and not as a tourist. You won't be memorizing names or dates. You won't be hunting for drama or conquest. You're here for something gentler. You're here to rest beside the lives that came before, to feel rather than to analyze. The past will meet you not in facts, but in feelings. The cool shadow of a carved wall, the smoky smell of an ancient hearth, the soft shape of a sleeping city buried beneath centuries. You may have wondered, quietly, how entire cities disappear. How can a place where people once lived, laughed, cooked, prayed, and dreamed, a place of walls and tools and firelight, simply vanish? Not through catastrophe, necessarily. Not always through war or fire or flood. Sometimes they just fade. The reasons are quiet. A river changes course. A trade route drifts elsewhere. The soil grows tired, or people move on slowly without mourning, and nature quietly closes the door behind them. The world is full of such places, Katal Yuk. Older than writing, built without streets or rulers. Mohenjo-daro, with its careful drains and silent script. Petra, hidden in stone and shadow. Babylon, where the gardens may have floated in stories, if not in fact. Teotihuacan, a city planned with stars in mind and forgotten by its own descendants. These are not cities of noise and neon. They are cities of breath and bone. Cities whose silence is not absence, but presence. You close your eyes, and already the dust begins to settle over your thoughts. The word dust sounds dull, almost empty, but in history, it holds everything. Dust is memory without shape. It carries pollen and ash, fragments of bone and parchment, wind-blown flakes of ceramic once shaped by hands like yours. Dust knows what we forget. It coats the stones we leave behind. It fills the air in tombs. It curls gently through empty corridors. The dust remembers names you've never heard, not in words, but in weight. There's something comforting in that. The idea that even if nothing is written, nothing is published, nothing is carved in marble, the earth remembers in its own way. And when you slow down enough, when your thoughts become quiet and your breath matches the rhythm of sleep, you can almost hear what the dust has to say. You imagine walking across a bare plain under a wide, pale sky. There are no signs to tell you what once stood here, but your body senses it. A bump in the soil, a line of stones half buried, a broken shape that isn't quite natural. And then the wind shifts, and suddenly the landscape changes, not in form, but in feeling. You are not alone. The place may be empty, but it is not without presence. The first cities didn't roar with engines or glow with light. They hummed, they pulsed with human life at a slower, steadier frequency, one that matched the sun, the seasons, the flow of rivers. People lived in close circles. They gathered around fire. They cooked. They slept. They painted stories on the walls. They buried their dead beneath their homes, not in distant cemeteries. They built not to impress the heavens, but to hold one another. These early cities were not always ruled by kings or gods. Sometimes they were ruled by rhythm of work, of breath, of life, moving gently forward. Think of your own home now. The sounds and silences that live within it. The creak of the same floorboard. The scent of something cooking in the next room. The low murmur of a familiar voice. The way your hand reaches for a light switch in the dark without thinking. Now imagine that same comfort stretched across dozens of homes, linked by paths not yet paved. That sense of shared stillness, that is the heartbeat of the cities we'll visit. These cities don't rise up in defiance. They settle in like sleep. They embed themselves into their landscapes and become indistinguishable from it. They disappear not with violence, but with grace. A slow, respectful return to soil and stone. They remind us that nothing needs to be loud to matter, that permanence is not the same as presence, and that the stories which linger longest are often the ones left unfinished. As your breath deepens, you begin to feel how ancient time works differently than modern time. In your daily life, time is measured in appointments, deadlines, quick clicks, and faster scrolls. But ancient time doesn't rush. It moves like water under ice, slow and unseen, until suddenly a shape is carved. It works on stone, not screens. It erodes, it settles, it layers, and that is the rhythm we will move in. You won't solve mysteries tonight. You won't decode ancient languages or reconstruct lost temples. Instead, you'll listen. You'll observe. You'll allow the mystery to be part of the beauty, like looking at the moon and not needing to know its temperature. The unknown, too, can be soothing. Not every question needs an answer before sleep. Some are meant to be floated on, like a soft tide carrying you inward. The silence of these cities isn't empty. It's full of careful labor, stones carried, bread baked, walls painted, children named, fires tended. These lives weren't less meaningful because they ended. They echo still, not in textbooks, but in the rhythms that shaped our own, in how we build, in how we remember, in how we live side by side. Your mind may begin to wander now, not away from this story, but deeper into it. That's the point. Let the edges blur. Let history become landscape. Let facts become feeling. There is no rush here, no quiz at the end. You're not reading for mastery. You're resting in the quiet companionship of people who lived and worked and wondered, just as you do, but long before your time, and as your breath continues, it's steady. Rhythm, you begin to feel it. The earth beneath you isn't just soil. It's a memory palace. Not one made of gold or marble, but of clay, of silence, of homes that once held laughter and song. They may have vanished from maps, but not from meaning. They've returned to the elements, dust, wind, stone, but they remain whole in a way that only forgotten things can dot ahead of you. Somewhere in the dim glow of your imagination is a doorway. It doesn't lead to grandeur or glory. It opens onto a rooftop village older than the pyramids, where people lived without kings or roads, where they climbed down through their ceilings into warm painted rooms. The place is called Ketal Yok. It is quiet, it is waiting, and it remembers. You'll go there next, not to learn, but to feel, to sit in a house where someone once slept, to place your hand where another hand once traced a sun or a deer onto a clay wall, to listen to the silence not as absence, but as presence, and to allow yourself to disappear gently into that stillness. The dust knows their names, and now, slowly, sleepily, so do you. You step gently through the doorway now, not one made of wood or stone, but of time itself. It opens not outward, but downward, into a place buried in layers of earth and memory. There is no street here, no palace, no grand gate, just a roof, low and flat beneath the soft weight of centuries. And below that, a room where someone once lived, just as you live now. You lower yourself in through the ceiling, as they once did, and your feet touch the floor of another world. This is Kilwa, one of the oldest cities we know. It rests in what is now central Turkey, but it might as well be the edge of the dream world, a place half remembered by history, like the dim traces of a story you were once told as a child. It flourished more than 9,000 years ago, but here in the quiet, time doesn't feel like a distance. It feels like a layer of air, thin and breathable. You are inside a house. It is not large, but it holds warmth. The walls are made of mud brick, the same earth that bore the people who built them. There is a platform in one corner where someone once slept, a clay oven where meals were cooked. There are paintings here too, ochre spirals, handprints, animals, geometric shapes. They aren't decorative in the way we think of art now. They are something deeper, something between language and prayer. You imagine the hand that smeared that pigment, not a famous artist, just someone trying to leave a mark. There are no windows here, no doors that open out to the world. Every home in Kilwa is entered from above, through an opening in the ceiling, where a wooden ladder leads down. You picture climbing into your own home that way, dropping into your kitchen from the sky, living not beside others but above and beneath them. It shifts your sense of space. This city was not built outward, but upward, stacked like a living memory. There are no streets, no alleys, no plazas or squares. The roofs served as the walkways. A town where everyone walked on everyone else's house. It should feel strange, yet it doesn't. It feels like a village grown slowly and naturally, like moss over stone. This is not a place designed by rulers or engineers. It was shaped by repetition, by need, by rhythm. It was shaped the way a bird shapes a nest, with whatever is at hand and with deep care. You walk across the rooftops in your mind now. The sun is high but gentle. You step from one home to another as if the entire city is a single house. Many rooms, many stories, all connected by unseen threads. People here lived in close proximity, not just physically, but emotionally. There were no monuments to kings, no gold, no iron, no soldiers. This city grew for over 1,000 years without war. Imagine that. A city with no war, no fortifications, no prisons, just homes, just people living day after day with the land, farming, weaving, sculpting, painting, birthing, burying, sleeping, and yes, they buried their dead in their homes, beneath the sleeping platforms, under the very places where life continued. You stand in one such room now, your hand brushing the wall beside you. Beneath your feet, under layers of packed earth, lie the bones of ancestors. They are not ghosts, but guardians. Their presence is not haunting, it's grounding. Their sleep teaches you how to rest without fear, without struggle, as part of something ongoing. The city grew and shifted as people added more layers, more homes, more lives. Each house built upon the ruins of another, each family stepping into the shape left behind by others. Time here is not a line, but a spiral. It curls back upon itself. You sense that you are not the first to visit, not the first to rest in this quiet. The wind through the roof opening carries not only air, but memory. And the memory here is peaceful. You imagine what daily life sounded like. No traffic, no alarms. Just the hum of conversation through thin walls, the grinding of grain, the crackle of a fire, the low murmur of song, perhaps the laughter of a child echoing through a rooftop. Life would have been hard. Yes, there was no electricity, no running water, no medicine as we know it, but it was also slow, deep, intentional. There is evidence here of community, of shared space, of mutual care. The art on the walls suggests ritual, but also joy. Not religion as hierarchy, but as story, repeated, reimagined, painted fresh. You trace the curve of a horned animal drawn in red, perhaps a bull. You notice a cluster of dots that might mean something, or might simply be beautiful. And in this moment, you realize something that startles you with its gentleness. People are not so different now. We still gather, we still decorate, we still share food, we still mark time with small ceremonies. We still seek warmth, and when we are gone, we hope to be remembered. You sit on the platform now, your body relaxed, your eyes soft. In the quiet, the house breathes with you. The walls, the floor, the air, everything holds the rhythm of past lives, and it does not demand attention. It simply welcomes you. There is something restful in knowing that not all cities were built on ambition. Some were built on closeness, on repetition, on community so steady it became invisible. These people didn't need kings or walls. They had each other. They had paint and clay and grain and song, and their city lasted for centuries. You turn your gaze toward the ladder leading back to the rooftop. Light pools around its edge like water. As you climb slowly upward, you feel a weightless sense of time unfolding. This city may be buried now, but it is not gone. It shaped the way we live. It still echoes in the way we design our homes, in the way we cook and gather and decorate. When you reach the roof, the sun has shifted slightly. The air is golden and quiet. You walk slowly across the roofs again, this time with deeper awareness. You are not walking on ruins. You are walking through memory, and memory does not vanish. You pause at the edge of the settlement, where the structures fade back into earth. You kneel and press your hand into the soil. It is warm. It holds stories you'll never hear, and that is somehow comforting. Not every story needs to be known to be true. You lie down one last time, just as they might have, beneath an open sky. The stars are faint but patient. Your breath slows. Beneath you, the painted walls continue their silent watch. The city sleeps beneath the paint, and so do you. You enter the dream from a higher place this time, not through roofs or ritual, but by stepping down gently, one brick at a time. The ground here feels different beneath your feet, sun-baked and even, like someone has smoothed the earth on purpose. There's no clutter, no rubble, just long, straight lines that stretch away calmly in either direction. You follow them slowly, your steps echoing through time, and as you do, the silence of Mohenjo-Daro begins to speak. This city, nearly 5,000 years old, is carved not in grandeur but in precision. There are no towering ziggurats or colossal statues, no carved gods to meet you at the gate. Instead, you find something more surprising: order, peace, simplicity laid out like a poem. The streets are straight, not by accident, but by design. They cross each other at right angles, like thoughts aligned with intention. The homes are rectangular and uniform, set in neat rows. You imagine walking here when the city still breathed. It wouldn't be loud. There'd be no shouting of merchants, no clash of weapons, only the gentle sound of sandals against clay, the soft clink of pottery, the hush of water moving beneath your feet. That's what you notice next, not with your eyes, but with your ears. Water flowing quietly, somewhere out of sight. You follow its presence like a thread leading inward until you find what you didn't expect: a drain, long covered and deliberate. Another one and another, beneath every home, behind every bath. They run like veins beneath the city, and you realize this is a city that was built for cleanliness, for calm, for care. Mohenjo-Daro, the Mound of the Dead, is a name given much later by people who forgot the city's real name. Its people didn't leave behind grand proclamations or war memorials. They left brick. They left order. They left a city so sophisticated it feels modern, and yet no one knows who ruled it, or even if anyone did. You step into a home now. The door is low, and the walls are smooth with time. There is a small stair leading to a bathing area. Sunlight spills across the floor in long, soft bands. The air feels clean. Somehow, this forgotten place feels familiar, as if it's a memory you almost had, as if your own sense of peace was patterned after this one. This house, like many others, has a private bath, not for wealth, not for luxury, but for daily ritual. Cleanliness was part of life here, woven into routine like thread through cloth. You run your hand along the edge of the bath. It is made of baked brick, carefully sealed. Someone once poured water here, bent their body into the morning, and welcomed the day with stillness. You can almost hear the sound of a clay jar being filled, tipped, poured, the quiet splash, the soft exhale. Even the great bath, a public pool at the center of the city, does not feel grand in the usual sense. It is wide and deep and ringed with steps, but it doesn't dominate the skyline. It is nestled within walls, like something sacred but not showy. You stand at its edge now. The wind stirs across the empty water. In its silence, you hear intention. This was not a place for spectacle. It was a place for release, for reflection, perhaps even for letting go. And that is what this whole city seems to offer: space to let go. You sit now, on the edge of the great bath. The bricks are warm beneath you. The sun is high but gentle. You breathe slowly, and the rhythm of the city joins your own. There are no armies marching here, no kings issuing decrees, no blood carved into the walls. There are no great statues to remind you who ruled. And perhaps that is the most extraordinary thing of all, because a city like this, clean, organized, thriving, usually points to a strong leader, a palace, a name. But Mohenjo-Daro offers none. It speaks not of dominance, but of harmony. It asks no questions and offers no slogans. It simply works, like a body in balance, like breath in sleep. The people who lived here left behind no written records we can read. Their script, the Indoscript, remains undeciphered. Tiny carvings on seals, on pottery, on bits of ivory. You picture a small object in someone's palm, a symbol pressed into wet clay. What did it say? Was it a name, a prayer, a measure of grain? You do not know, no one does. And somehow that makes the silence deeper, more tender. Not all knowledge comes in words. Sometimes it comes in shape, in structure, in quiet repetition. And Mohenjo-Daro speaks in the language of flow, water, air, life, all moving in concert. This was a city not of conquest, but of continuity. As your body relaxes further, you begin to notice how much of the city's energy feels circular. The drains return water to the earth. The homes are built in rows, each with their own symmetry. Even the great bath is ringed with steps, concentric, gentle, inviting. You feel it in your limbs, this pattern, this soft looping, this echo of return. And perhaps that's why sleep feels so close now, because this city teaches you how to move without struggle, how to be clean and still, how to listen to the flow beneath the surface of water. Yes, but also of thought. You wander once more. Through the narrow lanes, a pot is resting where someone once placed it. A threshold is worn smooth from quiet passage. The bricks underfoot are aligned just so, not for beauty but for function. The alignment becomes its own kind of elegance. Nothing here is wasted. Nothing is rushed. Everything has time. You pause near a well. There were hundreds in this city, public and private, shared and tended. The well is deep, cool, circular. You peer down and see only shadow, and yet you feel the depth in your chest. The water waits, not for noise, but for need. That is the lesson here. To wait without worry, to serve without praise, to flow without fanfare. Mohenjo-Daro is not a city that dazzles you. It doesn't ask to be remembered with fireworks or stone giants. It simply rests in the earth, holding on to its gentle intelligence. And you, here now in the stillness of night, feel your own mind beginning to reflect that calm. You lie down on a rooftop, just as someone once did, thousands of years ago. The stars above are unchanged. The ground beneath is solid, symmetrical, slow. In the hush of this place, your thoughts dissolve like water into sand. The drains still run. The baths still wait. The city still listens. And so do you. You awaken slowly, but not into morning. Into gold. The light here is different, softer, thinner. Not the harsh blaze of a noon sun, but the filtered shimmer of something sacred. You blink once, and the world brightens without burning. Everything is bathed in it. The sand, the walls, even your skin. This is not ordinary light. This is light that believes in itself. You are standing on the threshold of a vanished city that once believed light could replace gods. The place is called Akhenaten, though today we call it Amarna. It existed only briefly, a flicker in Egypt's long, unblinking gaze. And yet, for a moment, it was everything. A capital built from scratch. A revolution etched in limestone. A hymn to the sun written in bricks and boulevards. And now it is dust. But tonight it glows again, just enough for you to remember what it once tried to be. The story begins with a man named Akhenaten, a pharaoh with a vision unlike any before him. He turned away from the old gods, the pantheon of falcons, jackals, crocodiles, and looked upward to the disk of the sun, the Aten. It was not a god shaped like a man or beast, but a radiant circle light itself. Invisible, untouchable, always watching. Akhenaten believed in this sun with such singular devotion that he broke with centuries of tradition. He left Thebes, the capital of old power, and carved a new city from the desert's ribcage. A city built not in defense, but in openness, spread across a sun-drenched valley between cliffs. He named it Akhenaten, the horizon of the Aten, and here you stand now. The city is gone, mostly. Its palaces have melted back into sand. The paint has faded, the columns have fallen, but the layout remains etched faintly into the desert floor, like a blueprint left by sunlight. You follow the line of a street, unusually wide, designed so that nothing could block the sun's gaze. No high walls, no looming temples, everything exposed. You walk without hurry. The warmth is not oppressive. It wraps around you, weightless. You realize something as you pass the low foundations of homes and courts. This city was made to be seen from above, not from towers or pyramids, but from the sky, from the sun's vantage. It was never meant to be hidden, and maybe that's why it didn't last. There is a fragility to things built on ideals. Akhenaten rose quickly, without layers of history to hold it up. It was a dream poured into stone. You pass through what remains of the royal palace, once adorned with painted floors, where the pharaoh and his family walked barefoot among lilies and birds. You picture Akhenaten with his queen, Nefertiti, their 6 daughters clustered like petals around them. They worshipped the Aten not with blood, but with beauty. There are no records of war here, no battle scars, just art, scenes of daily life, bathed in sunlight, the royal family together, eating fruit, holding hands, surrounded by rays of the Aten ending in tiny open palms. The images are intimate, soft, not power, presence. You sit now at the edge of what was once the king's garden. Nothing grows, but the dust holds memory. You let your thoughts settle and wonder, what does it feel like to believe light is enough? The sun, after all, gives everything. It warms the seed, paints the sky, shapes the shadow, but it does not speak, it does not explain. It simply exists, unreachable, and yet essential. Akhenaten didn't just worship the sun. He reoriented life around it. Even language changed. Even art. Bodies became elongated, curved, serene, as if shaped by golden heat instead of blood. And just as quickly, it ended. After less than 2 decades, the city was abandoned. The old gods returned. The temples of Ammon reopened. The name of Akhenaten was chiseled from the records. His statues were smashed. The sun moved on. And Akhenaten, the dream city, was left to vanish into silence. You lie back on the warm sand now, in the center of what was once a sun temple. There are no roofs here, because none were allowed. Only open courtyards, stone altars, and the endless sky. You close your eyes, and you can still feel it. The warmth not from above, but from below, as if the ground itself is glowing. There is no anger in this place, no bitterness, only a kind of resignation, a knowing that even the most radiant visions must yield to time. Akhenaten tried to change not just religion, but perception. He tried to quiet the noise of centuries and replace it with pure light. And for a moment it worked. But moments are not forever. And yet what he built still lingers, not in monuments, but in this strange, tender silence. A city made not for conquest, but for clarity, for a different kind of seeing. You walk now toward the edge of the city. The cliffs rise around you, soft and tall. Their shadows stretch long as the sun begins to lower. This, too, was part of the design. Akhenaten was chosen for the way the sun appeared to rise and set between these cliffs, framed perfectly, like a painting that only light could finish. As the horizon deepens, you sit once more. The light changes, not vanishing, but shifting, softening. It melts against the sand, turns gold to amber, amber to dusk. You feel yourself softening too, your thoughts slow. The lines between present and past blur. The city is no longer buried. It lives here, in this moment, in this light. You exhale, long and slow. The sun's disk dips lower. Akhenaten melts into it, slowly, and so do you. The air is warmer here, not heavy, not hot, but full, like something once spoken still floats in it. You arrive without footsteps. There is no path, no road, no trace of your movement. Only a sense of arrival, like waking into a dream already halfway through. The horizon is low and pale. The land is flat. Dust rises gently, and the wind carries not songs, but the echoes of them, a rhythm you can't quite place, but feel nonetheless. Babylon doesn't need to call your name. It already knows it. Once, this was the heart of the world. So people, said a city so central, so mighty, so filled with wonder that all other cities seemed to orbit around it. Yet here, now, in this quiet, it does not feel loud. It does not boast. It only waits, half buried in the sand, gazing out toward time like someone staring across a calm river dot. You begin at the gate. It rises not before you in stone, but within you, imagined from fragments. The Ishtar gate, once painted deep blue, and covered with golden animals, lions and bulls and dragons, marching in rows. You see it in pieces, a lion's paw, a bit of glazed brick. It no longer stands here. It stands in a museum far away. But Babylon does not mind. Its memory is not trapped in walls. It lives in the space those walls once held. You pass through the gate gently. There are no guards now, no fanfare, but the sense of presence remains. The avenue stretches ahead of you, its stones smooth from the weight of many feet, many years. Once envoys from distant lands would have walked here. Horses, chariots, merchants with cloth and spice. Now it is only you, and the quiet dust, and the low hum of air that remembers them. You don't hurry. This city does not ask you to. Babylon was built slowly, layer by layer, by kings and floods and dreams. You walk through ruins that do not rise, but press inward, outlines of rooms, ridges of walls, a well where water once echoed up to hands. And yet, even in this stillness, the city feels vast. You close your eyes and let your senses fill in the blanks. You hear soft footsteps. You smell date palms and baked clay. You feel the warmth of a sun-baked courtyard. You see figures moving in long robes, voices speaking Akkadian words, thick with age and shape. For a moment, the city lifts from the dust and moves. This is how Babylon survives, not through precision, but through atmosphere, through suggestion, through myth. You reach the center now, or what would have been. A place called Etemenanki once stood here, a towering ziggurat, stair-stepped and immense, reaching toward the sky. Some say it was the inspiration for the Tower of Babel. You try to picture it, 7 levels, painted in gold and white and indigo, each tier narrowing, each step a question. But it's not the height you notice now. It's the absence, the space. The tower once filled is empty, but not hollow. The sky here feels changed, stretched, expectant, as if it still waits for the tower to return. You lie down at the base of the vanished steps. The ground is warm, and beneath it, centuries. Babylon was ruled by many, but remembered most for one, Nebuchadnezzar II, who reigned during the city's golden age. He built the gates, the palaces, the temples, the walls so wide that chariots could race across them side by side. You feel his presence, not as a man, but as ambition, as scale, as the breath that expands a dream to fill the horizon. And then, softly, your mind drifts upward to something more mysterious. The Hanging Gardens. You've heard of them. One of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. A garden built on terraces, filled with flowing water and lush green life. Rising above the desert, a cool, suspended world in the heat. But no one knows for sure if they were real. No trace remains. No firm location. Just descriptions. Just longing. But you don't need ruins to visit them. You only need your breath. You climb now, gently, in imagination. Stone steps, warm beneath bare feet. Vines curl from columns. Water trickles down carved channels. You press your hand to a leaf, soft and wet. The air is cooler here, shaded by palms and fig trees. Birds flit between levels. A woman walks past, carrying a bowl of pomegranate seeds. A man hums a melody no one ever wrote down. Maybe the gardens were real. Maybe they weren't. It doesn't matter. The dream was real enough to last. Thousands of years. And now it wraps around you like ivy. You sit at the top level, beside a shallow pool. The water reflects only sky. The city stretches out below you, quiet, golden, slowly fading in the dusk. Somewhere out there, the Euphrates glides past, carving the edge of civilization. Its sound, if you listen, is like breath, steady, soft, patient. That's how Babylon lived on the river's curve. It grew with the water. It flourished with the flood. And when empires shifted, and names changed, and kings forgot their own stories, the river kept flowing, and the city kept watching. You think now of how power tries to last forever, how it builds with stone and fire and fear. But Babylon doesn't seem to care about that anymore. Its kings are dust. Its towers are sky. Its lions are museum pieces. And yet the city still feels whole, not in structure, but in presence. You walk once more through its streets, though there are no signs left. No lights, no names carved in stone, just impressions, just energy, a silence full of texture, a language that does not speak but listens. As the night deepens, you lie again at the base of the invisible tower. Stars bloom overhead. The sand cools beneath you. Somewhere in the breeze, you catch the faint scent of myrrh. And somewhere in the silence, you hear the soft footfall of something passing. Not a ghost, but a memory. Babylon doesn't need to be seen. It only needs to be felt. And now you do. The city watches from the sand. And you, too, begin to rest like a ruin hole in your stillness, soft in your forgetting, held by something larger than time. The night opens wide, but here it opens upward, not like a door, but like a sky you step into. You arrive not on streets or rooftops, but deep within green, a jungle thick with breath and shadow, where every tree seems to whisper something older than words. The air smells of water and bark. The ground is soft beneath your steps. The darkness is not frightening. It is soft, deep, patient, and high above you. Something stirs, stone, sleeping among the leaves. This is Tikal, a city once powerful, now peaceful. Once loud with drums and chants, now quiet with moss and mist. You don't see it at first. That's the way of this place. It hides its greatness, not out of shame, but out of reverence. The jungle folds it inward. Roots weave through courtyards. Vines cradle staircases. It does not erase the city. It holds it gently. You tilt your head, and then you see them, the temples, rising through the canopy like mountains made by hands. Sharp, stepped, and steep, they pierce the green like thoughts breaking through a dream. Their edges are softened now by centuries of rain and wind, but they still point skyward, still wait for stars. You approach one slowly. Temple Eye, sometimes called the Temple of the Great Jaguar. It towers above the forest floor, its steps steep and narrow, as if made for giants with careful feet. You don't climb it, not yet. Instead, you sit at its base, where the earth still hums with memory. This was the center of a city, once. A city of tens of thousands, not built around roads or rivers, but around rhythm. Tikal belonged to the Maya, who did not see time as a line, but as a circle. Their days spun like wheels, each with its own spirit. Their cities followed the stars. Their kings spoke to gods, not with swords, but with rituals, dreams, numbers. They carved time into stone, not to trap it, but to honor it. And that's what you feel now as you rest beneath the temple's shadow, time circling. Not fast, not slow, just wide. The jungle around you moves with sound, not noise, but presence. A howler monkey calls, far off a voice from the canopy, deep and distant, leaves murmur in a wind you cannot see. Somewhere a bird whistles a single note, pure and flute-like. You breathe it in. You let it pass through you. This is not silence. This is balance. You begin to walk again through plazas where ceremonies once echoed. The ground is uneven, paved with ancient stones now cracked and rooted. On either side, steely rise from the earth, tall slabs carved with images of kings and glyphs. You cannot read them, but you don't need to. Their shapes speak anyway. Curved like water, sharp like bone, arranged like poetry in a language you almost understand. You imagine the city at its height, white limestone buildings gleaming in sunlight, priests in feathered robes pacing slowly along the causeways, children chasing shadows, elders watching the sky for omens. There was life here, layered and complex, like the forest itself, and yet there was no one ruler for all time. The Maya measured time in cycles, and power followed those cycles too. Cities rose and fell, not with finality, but with rhythm. Tikal grew, Tikal faded, Tikal slept. You don't hurry. This city does not ask you to. Babylon was built slowly, layer by layer, by kings and floods and dreams. You walk through ruins that do not rise, but press inward, outlines of rooms, ridges of walls, a well where water once echoed up to hands. And yet, even in this stillness, the city feels vast. You close your eyes and let your senses fill in the blanks. You hear soft footsteps. You smell date palms and baked clay. You feel the warmth of a sun-baked courtyard. You see figures moving in long robes, voices speaking Akkadian words, thick with age and shape. For a moment, the city lifts from the dust and moves. This is how Babylon survives, not through precision, but through atmosphere, through suggestion, through myth. You reach the center now, or what would have been. A place called Etamananki once stood here, a towering ziggurat, stair-stepped and immense, reaching toward the sky. Some say it was the inspiration for the Tower of Babel. You try to picture it, 7 levels, painted in gold and white and indigo, each tier narrowing, each step a question. But it's not the height you notice now. It's the absence, the space. The tower once filled is empty, but not hollow. The sky here feels changed, stretched, expectant, as if it still waits for the tower to return. You lie down at the base of the vanished steps. The ground is warm, and beneath it, centuries, Babylon, was ruled by many, but remembered most for one, Nebuchadnezzar II, who reigned during the city's golden age. He built the gates, the palaces, the temples, the walls so wide that chariots could race across them side by side. You feel his presence, not as a man, but as ambition, as scale, as the breath that expands a dream to fill the horizon. And then, softly, your mind drifts upward to something more mysterious. The Hanging Gardens, you've heard of them. One of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. A garden built on terraces, filled with flowing water and lush green life, rising above the desert, a cool, suspended world in the heat. But no one knows for sure if they were real. No trace remains. No firm location. Just descriptions. Just longing. But you don't need ruins to visit them. You only need your breath. You climb now, gently, in imagination. Stone steps, warm beneath bare feet. Vines curl from columns. Water trickles down carved channels. You press your hand to a leaf, soft and wet. The air is cooler here, shaded by palms and fig trees. Birds flit between levels. A woman walks past, carrying a bowl of pomegranate seeds. A man hums a melody no one ever wrote down. Maybe the gardens were real. Maybe they weren't. It doesn't matter. The dream was real enough to last. Thousands of years. And now it wraps around you like ivy. You sit at the top level, beside a shallow pool. The water reflects only sky. The city stretches out below you, quiet, golden, slowly fading in the dusk. Somewhere out there, the Euphrates glides past, carving the edge of civilization. Its sound, if you listen, is like breath, steady, soft, patient. That's how Babylon lived on the river's curve. It grew with the water. It flourished with the flood. And when empires shifted, and names changed, and kings forgot their own stories, the river kept flowing, and the city kept watching. You think now of how power tries to last forever, how it builds with stone and fire and fear. But Babylon doesn't seem to care about that anymore. Its kings are dust. Its towers are sky. Its lions are museum pieces. And yet the city still feels whole, not in structure, but in presence. You walk once more through its streets, though there are no signs left. No lights, no names carved in stone, just impressions, just energy, a silence full of texture, a language that does not speak but listens. As the night deepens, you lie again at the base of the invisible tower. Stars bloom overhead. The sand cools beneath you. Somewhere in the breeze, you catch the faint scent of myrrh. And somewhere in the silence, you hear the soft footfall of something passing. Not a ghost, but a memory. Babylon doesn't need to be seen. It only needs to be felt. And now you do. The city watches from the sand. And you, too, begin to rest like a ruin whole in your stillness, soft in your forgetting, held by something larger than time. The night opens wide, but here it opens upward, not like a door, but like a sky you step into. You arrive not on streets or rooftops, but deep within green, a jungle thick with breath and shadow, where every tree seems to whisper something older than words. The air smells of water and bark. The ground is soft beneath your steps. The darkness is not frightening. It is soft, deep, patient, and high above you. Something stirs, stone, sleeping among the leaves. This is Tickle, a city once powerful, now peaceful. Once loud with drums and chants, now quiet with moss and mist. You don't see it at first. That's the way of this place. It hides its greatness, not out of shame, but out of reverence. The jungle folds it inward. Roots weave through courtyards. Vines cradle staircases. It does not erase the city. It holds it gently. You tilt your head, and then you see them, the temples, rising through the canopy like mountains made by hands. Sharp, stepped, and steep, they pierce the green like thoughts breaking through a dream. Their edges are softened now by centuries of rain and wind, but they still point skyward, still wait for stars. You approach one slowly. Temple Eye, sometimes called the Temple of the Great Jaguar. It towers above the forest floor, its steps steep and narrow, as if made for giants with careful feet. You don't climb it, not yet. Instead, you sit at its base, where the earth still hums with memory. This was the center of a city, once. A city of tens of thousands, not built around roads or rivers, but around rhythm. Tickle belonged to the Maya, who did not see time as a line, but as a circle. Their days spun like wheels, each with its own spirit. Their cities followed the stars. Their kings spoke to gods, not with swords, but with rituals, dreams, numbers. They carved time into stone, not to trap it, but to honor it. And that's what you feel now, as you rest beneath the temple's shadow, time circling. Not fast, not slow, just wide. The jungle around you moves with sound, not noise, but presence. A howler monkey calls, far off a voice from the canopy, deep and distant, leaves murmur in a wind you cannot see. Somewhere a bird whistles a single note, pure and flute-like. You breathe it in. You let it pass through you. This is not silence. This is balance. You begin to walk again through plazas where ceremonies once echoed. The ground is uneven, paved with ancient stones now cracked and rooted. On either side, steely rise from the earth, tall slabs carved with images of kings and glyphs. You cannot read them, but you don't need to. Their shapes speak anyway. Curved like water, sharp like bone, arranged like poetry in a language you almost understand. You imagine the city at its height, white limestone buildings gleaming in sunlight, priests in feathered robes pacing slowly along the causeways, children chasing shadows, elders watching the sky for omens. There was life here, layered and complex, like the forest itself, and yet there was no one ruler for all time. The Maya measured time in cycles, and power followed those cycles too. Cities rose and fell, not with finality, but with rhythm. Tickle grew, Tickle faded, Tickle slept. And now you walk through its sleep. You reach the heart of the city, the great plaza. It opens around you like a clearing made by stars. Temples rise on both sides. Their steep faces catch the light of the moon. You walk slowly across the grass. Every footstep feels welcomed here. Time does not move forward. It moves inward. You remember now. The Maya understood astronomy with stunning precision. They tracked eclipses, solstices, Venus's path. They aligned their temples with celestial events. When the sun reached a certain place, the shadow would fall just so, a reminder that the heavens were watching. You feel that gaze now, not in fear, but in comfort. You lie down in the plaza's center. The earth is cool. The moon hangs full above the tallest temple, and for a moment your breath syncs with something larger, the turning of a calendar you cannot see, the heartbeat of a city that once breathed with the sky. Tikal was abandoned slowly, not burned, not crushed, just left. The reasons are unclear. Drought, overuse of land, political shifts. People moved on. The jungle moved in. And the stone, being patient, did not resist. It allowed the vines. It welcomed the green. That's what sleep is, sometimes. Not a shutting down, but a return. To softness, to stillness, to root and leaf and hush. You dream now, not of the city's fall, but of its rhythm, of feet climbing temple stairs, of firelight flickering against glyphs, of offerings laid with care, not for reward, but for gratitude. The Maya did not fear time. They danced with it, and so you do now. The jungle stirs above you, the temple stands beside you, and the city, still here, still breathing, sleeps not beneath ruin, but within it. The canopy wraps around your thoughts like a leaf curling shut at night. Tikal sleeps in the canopy, and you, like stone embraced by moss, surrender to the softness. You arrive high this time, above the plains, above the trees, where the rocks are older than names. The sky stretches wide and grey, like parchment waiting to be written on. The air is dry, still, watching. You do not descend into this city, you rise into it. The earth feels lifted here, as if the whole place was carved from a thought held too long in silence. This is Hattusa, the stone-boned capital of the Hittites, hidden in the hills of what we now call Turkey. It does not announce itself. It waits. You walk along a path of worn stone slabs. Grass grows between them, softening what once was hard. On both sides, jagged walls lean gently inward, not broken, but bowed, not ruined, just returned. The city once ruled an empire, but it does not shout. Its memory is not in gold, but in gravity, in the way the wind curls around corners, in the way stones hold their breath. Your first welcome is not a person or a voice. It is a lion, carved in stone, worn but watching. The lion gate, they called it. You approach slowly. Its lions flanked the entrance, broad, solemn, powerful. Their faces are softened by centuries of rain, but their eyes still hold shape. They do not snarl, they do not pounce, they wait. Guardians, not hunters. Symbols of protection, not conquest. You step between them, and the city receives you. It stretches out before you in low, thoughtful layers. Terraced halls, curved fortifications, foundations where temples once glowed with oil light and intention. Everything feels placed, not scattered, not accidental, as if the builders were listening to the earth, not commanding it. You pause by a broad stone wall. Here the air seems heavier, full of past decisions. This was once the seat of kings, of councils, of power wrapped in ritual. The Hittites ruled not with grand monuments, but with systems, scribes, treaties. Their laws were carved into clay, their peace agreements inscribed on silver dot. This is where the world's first recorded peace treaty was born between the Hittites and Egypt, not signed in ink, carved in cuneiform. You imagine the moment, hands calloused from battle now resting over soft clay, words shaped like wedges and lines, a promise made not to one man but to time, that even empires fierce and flawed can agree to stillness, and now the whole city lives in that stillness. You walk up the slope toward the great citadel, Baikakal, they called it, the high castle. The climb is slow. The wind begins to whisper, not in language, but in low, rhythmic pulses that sound like something ancient remembering itself. At the top, the view stretches wide, hills, valleys, rivers like silver threads. This is what the kings of Hattusa saw, not conquest, but connection. Roads running outward like veins, distant villages, forests heavy with oak and ash, and above it all, the thunder. The Hittites worshipped many gods, but none greater than the storm god. Teshub, they called him. They saw thunder not as threat, but as presence, not punishment, but power announcing itself. And when the skies rumbled, the city listened. You sit now on the remains of the citadel wall. A breeze rises, cool and dry. Clouds gather low. Somewhere in the distance, a slow rumble begins, not loud, just enough to feel in your chest. And suddenly, you understand the shape of this city, its high walls, its wide gates, its temples aligned. With the sky, it wasn't built just to govern. It was built to hear, to receive. Below you, the Yotsulakaya sanctuary lies tucked between rock outcrops, a sacred gallery of gods carved into stone. You descend into it slowly, not as a visitor, as a listener. The sanctuary is open to the sky, its walls etched with long processions, deities, kings, symbols of sun and storm. No roof, just air and stone and memory. You stand in the middle of it, and the wind circles gently around you. The gods here are not distant. They walk in rows, shoulder to shoulder. They feel more like ancestors than rulers, more like weather than commandments. You press your hand to the stone. It is cool, unmoving, and yet, beneath your palm, you feel something like breath, not pulsing, not alive, but remembered. Hattusa was not a forever city. It faded like thunder, loud, then gone. Its empire fell. Its gods grew quiet. Its language was lost for centuries. And yet, here you are, still hearing it. Not in words. In weather, you walk one last time through its broken streets. The lion gate behind you, the wind ahead. The city does not call you back. It does not cling. It simply lets go. That is the wisdom of mountains. They rise, they crumble, and still they stay. You lie down at the edge of a terrace wall, where grass grows wild through ancient mortar. The sky above is vast and grey and kind. Another rumble rolls across the distance, soft, like a voice saying good night. Hattusa listens for thunder, and you, still, breath slow, body warm, due to dot. You begin in a corridor of stone, dot narrow, dot winding. Walls rise around you like frozen. Curtains close, curving, rippling with veins of soft red and amber. This is no ordinary path. It is a passage carved not by hands, but by water and time. A natural hallway called the sick, where every step is quiet and slow, and every shadow holds a shimmer. The air is still, but not heavy. It's full of expectation, as if the rock itself is holding its breath. You walk gently. The light above you slants in from between canyon walls, painting everything in shades of rust and honey. The stone flickers with ancient memory. striped and smoothed by wind, as soft as silk in places, as firm as purpose in others. You can't see what lies ahead, but you don't need to. This city was made for slow arrivals. You take one more turn, and suddenly it's there. The treasury, carved into the sandstone cliff, it rises like a thought made solid, not towering, not aggressive, but elegant, impossibly precise. Columns and friezes and statues emerge from the rock, not built atop it. The whole structure seems to glow from within, as if it's made not of stone, but of late sunlight. You stand still, and Petra says nothing, but it knows you're here. This was a city that never shouted. It whispered its wonder. It did not rise by empire, but by passage, by trade, by water, by maps drawn, not on parchment, but on memory and stars. The Nabateans made this place, a people of the desert, of motion. They knew where the rains would fall and how to find water where none showed. They carved channels into cliffs, cisterns into the rock, and slowly they built a city where none should have thrived. And then they made it beautiful. You walk now through Petra slowly. The city doesn't unfold, it flows. Like a ribbon you follow through shadow and sun. Tombs appear round bends, high above, carved deep into rose-colored stone. Some are simple, some are grand, but none feel vain. They are not shrines to ego, but echoes of passage. The Nabateans didn't leave behind statues of kings. They left shapes of presence, openings in the rock, markers of where life moved and stopped and moved again. This city is a labyrinth of light, a map made of color. You climb a gentle slope, now toward a place called the high place of sacrifice. The path winds and turns, cut into the hill by feet long, vanished. Along the way you pass worn stairs, scattered carvings, altars softened by time. The climb is not fast. It isn't meant to be. Your breath slows, your muscles loosen. You become lighter with each step. At the top, the wind greets you, and so does the view. The whole valley opens below, temples, tombs, paths like veins, the treasury a pink flicker in the distance. The cliffs glow orange in the late sun. The silence is wide. It stretches farther than your vision. You sit on the edge and breathe it in. Petra was never only about stone. It was about passage. It was a crossroads, a place where incense caravans met silk traders, where whispers in Aramaic mingled with the sound of hooves and laughter and bells. Its beauty was not just in what was built, but in what moved through it. Now it is still, but not empty. You walk back down into the folds of the city. The royal tombs appear, vast and shadowed. Their columns are tall, their doorways deep, but they do not intimidate. They welcome in silence. You enter one, and the air cools instantly. Inside, the stone is smooth, the walls curved like ribs. It is dark, but kind. You sit against the wall, and for a moment, the sentries fall away. You hear the quiet thump of a camel's step, the hush of a cloth drawn across a stool, the sound of water being poured from a clay jar, the voice of a traveler asking, softly, for directions, all of it still here, folded into the stone. Outside again, the sun begins to lower. The cliffs catch fire, not with flame, but with warmth. The color deepens, red, rose, gold, 1,000 shades between light and sleep. Petra lives in those edges, not in one thing, but in the way things blur. Life and death, arrival and leaving, stone and sky. You lie now near the base of the monastery, Petra's largest monument. It rises from the hill like a thought half forgotten but not lost. Its doorway yawns open, tall and dark. You close your eyes and feel not awe but calm. This city doesn't ask to be conquered. It asks to be entered slowly, with quiet feet, with an open mind. Petra folds into Rose, not because of what time has done to it, but because of what time has left behind. Softness, shape, memory. The Nabateans moved like water through stone, and now the stone remembers them. You stretch out. The sand beneath you is warm. The cliffs glow faintly above. The stars begin to press through the fabric of dusk. This city, born of travelers, welcomes one more you, and as your breath slows and your thoughts scatter like sand in wind, you realize you are not a visitor. You are part of it now. Petra folds into Rose, and you fold into rest. The world begins in mist. It clings to your skin like memory. Light, cool, faintly sweet. All around you, trees rise tall and wide, their trunks textured like ancient skin. You walk slowly, your feet sinking just slightly into damp earth. The morning isn't silent, but it is hushed, as if the forest is exhaling slowly and doesn't want to wake itself too soon. And then, through the trees, stone, not in towers, not in blocks, but in faces, smiling, softly. Everywhere, you've arrived in And, Koa, the heart of a kingdom once vast and intricate, where temples bloomed from the jungle like stars rising from the sea. Once, millions lived here. Now, only echoes remain warm, green, laced with birdsong. You begin with a step into stillness. The temple of Bayon rises around you like a stone puzzle. Its towers are covered in faces, hundreds of them, each one calm, eyes closed, or gently opened, mouths curved into peace. Not gods with thunder, not kings with swords, just smiles. You look into one of the faces. It does not speak. It does not move. But somehow it welcomes you. The faces are believed to represent Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. Or maybe Jayavarman the Seventh, the king who built this place. Or maybe both. Or maybe neither. It doesn't matter. What matters is the stillness, the serenity, the way the stone seems to breathe, just slightly, like it has accepted the passing of centuries and remained unshaken. You walk between towers. The stone is cool under your fingertips. You wonder how many hands have touched it before, and how many will still come long after your steps fade. The city of Angkor was not just one temple. It was a whole world, a network of shrines and palaces, reservoirs and roads, all built to mirror the universe. The kings of the Khmer Empire designed Angkor as a mandala, a sacred map with Angkor Wat at its heart. Heaven made into earth, the cosmos in stone. You move now toward that center. Angkor Wat rises ahead, not suddenly, but steadily. First the outer walls, then the lotus bud towers, then the reflection in the still waters of its moat, perfect and gentle, as if the temple is pausing to look at itself. You cross the causeway slowly. Inside, the air shifts. It's cooler, more deliberate. Light falls through narrow windows in ribbons. You walk along corridors lined with carvings, stories told in stone, long and winding. Scenes of gods and demons, battles and blessings, dancers with hands like flowing water. The carvings don't rush, neither do you. Each figure feels like a moment caught mid-motion, a breath suspended. The stories are old, drawn from Hindu epics, shaped later by Buddhist calm, but they feel close. Not far-off myth, but quiet truths. You sit in the inner courtyard. The towers above you lean inward like fingers pressed in prayer. The stone beneath you is warm from the day. The temple was designed so the sun would rise directly behind it on equinox mornings, a place aligned with time, not ruled by it. You close your eyes. The air is still, and you realize this place was not made to be visited. It was made to be inhabited, even if only for a moment, even if only in thought. And so you stay longer than you meant to, and the temple stays with you longer than you expect. But even here, even in this heart of sacred stone, time moved on. The jungle crept back in. The people moved away. Angkor was never destroyed. It was simply outgrown, outlived, outlasted, and yet it remains. Not just preserved, embraced. The trees do not crush the temples, they hold them. Roots wrap around towers like arms. Leaves filter sunlight like blessings. You walk now through Tarprom, where the forest has become the walls, where nature and memory are braided. You touch the bark of a fig tree wrapped around stone. Both are warm. Both are older than you. Both are very much alive. You understand now, Angkor did not disappear. It slowed, it softened. It let go of its urgency and became something quieter, gentler. A reminder that all things sacred eventually settle into stillness. You lie down near a stone terrace, beneath a tangle of roots that curve above you like ribs. The earth is damp. The canopy filters moonlight in soft beams. Somewhere nearby, a bird calls once and then sleeps again. And the faces, the smiling ones, are still watching, still listening, still present. You let your breath fall into rhythm with theirs. Soft, sure, silent. Angkor smiles beneath the trees, and you with your limbs loose, your mind quiet, your thoughts wrapped in leaf and light, smile back just once, then sleep. You arrive under open sky. There are no towering statues, no arches or golden gates, no roaring fires, no carved gods, just order, just rhythm, just peace. The wind brushes gently across a flat plain, and the sun filters down onto straight lines of crumbling brick. This is not a city that shouts its history. It breathes it slowly, carefully, in grids and drains, in silence shaped into walls. You have reached Mohenjo-Daro, one of the oldest cities the world forgot to remember. Here, there are no famous names, no mythic kings, no empires carved in stone, only structure, only systems, only the quiet brilliance of balance. You walk the city's clean lines, broad avenues that intersect at right angles, like the bones of an idea drawn out with steady hands. Every block is carefully laid. The bricks are uniform, the proportions calming. There is no chaos here, only care. No monuments to ego, only murmurs of intention. This city, more than 4,000 years old, was part of the Indus Valley civilization, a place ahead of its time, and strangely, outside of it. You pass by what scholars call the Great Bath, a large rectangular basin lined with baked bricks, sealed with ancient ingenuity. Steps lead down from all sides. It isn't vast, but it feels sacred, not because of what's written on it. There are no inscriptions, but because of what it suggests. Cleansing, pausing, beginning again. You sit on the edge of the bath. The bottom is dry now, but it still feels full. as if water left behind its shape. This place wasn't ruled with violence or vanity. There are no weapons here, no palaces, number, grave goods of gold or jewels. Instead, the city speaks in pipes, in symmetry, in drains and wells and walls so carefully placed that they've held their form for 4 millennia. You continue walking, and the roads speak softly beneath your feet. Each house had access to water. Each street had sewage systems. Each structure was part of something larger, not ruled, but related. You imagine the daily rhythm, pots clinking, water drawn from a well, cloth drying in afternoon sun, people moving through the narrow lanes, not in haste, but with purpose, children chasing each other along rooftops, elders sitting in doorways, listening to wind, and always the river nearby, the Indus, slow and steady, gliding past the edge of the city like a breath that never left. You reach the granary now. Its walls are thick, its air still. It was built to store life, not decorate it. Nearby, a raised platform may have been used for trade or ritual. No one knows for sure. That's part of the beauty here. So much remains unanswered, the Indus. Script has not been deciphered. Symbols appear on seals and tablets, delicate strokes, tiny figures, but their meanings are hidden. You stare at one carved into a faded shard, an animal with curved horns, a few mysterious marks. You feel like the city is whispering, but the words don't reach your ears. Still, you understand, not with mind, with rhythm, because this city speaks through design, through placement, through repetition. The buildings are humble, but they fit together like quiet thoughts that form a dream. There is no central temple, no great tomb, just life. Organized, flowing, calm. You pass a well, still deep, still circular, still lined with the same bricks. You peer down into it. The darkness at the bottom is not empty. It's full of time, and now, as the sun lowers toward the edge of the plain, you lie down in one of the upper courtyards, perhaps once a rooftop, now open to the sky. The bricks around you are warm. The breeze brushes over your skin. There are no grand shadows here, no sound of chariots, just the steady hush of a city that believed in balance. Mohenjo-daro was eventually abandoned. The river shifted, the rains changed, and the city, without complaint or collapse, simply let go. No dramatic fall, no invasion, just quiet. Even its end was gentle. You exhale slowly. The sky darkens to a soft violet, and in the stillness, you feel something deep, the power of a people who chose clarity over conquest. Mohenjo-daro waits by the river, and you, wrapped in its quiet lines, its clean air, its soft ancient hush, rest beside it. No kings, no gods, just breath, just sleep. There is no stone gate here, no towering temple, no echo of marble or carved inscriptions. Instead, there is open land, soft earth, high sky, and grass swaying gently in the breeze. The horizon rolls like a whisper, green and wide. You walk slowly, the ground warm beneath your steps, your breath sinking to something older than words. You have arrived. In Cahokia, not a name its people would have known, but one it carries now. The name is borrowed, just like much of what we think we know, and yet the place is real. So are the echoes. So is the rhythm. Once, long before asphalt and highways and glass towers, this was the largest city north of Mesoamerica, larger, even, than London in its time. It rose from the river plains along the Mississippi, not in stone, but in earth. A city sculpted from soil, from purpose, from ceremony. Its builders used baskets and bare hands to shape the land into forms that still hold their silence centuries. Later, you move slowly toward the center. There are no ruins in the traditional sense. What remains is subtler, broad mounds of earth, rising gently from the ground like sleeping animals, each one humming with memory. Some are flat-topped, some round, some once held buildings, others held the dead, but none of them feel lifeless. They hold a pulse, not a heartbeat exactly, but a vibration, like something still resonating under the grass. The air is full of light. You hear birds in the distance, insects clicking like beads in a slow rhythm. The city reveals itself not through grandeur, but through scale. Over 120 mounds once stood here, connected by wide plazas and ceremonial paths. People lived, worked, gathered, feasted. Children played in packed dirt streets. Elders watched the sun rise from behind the trees, knowing it would rise again. You walk toward Monk's Mound, the largest of them all. It dominates the landscape without shouting. It rises in layers for broad terraces, carved carefully, held together by time. The climb is gentle but constant. As you ascend, the wind lifts. You pause halfway and look out across the plain. You can almost see it. Clusters of homes made of wood and thatch, smoke rising in threads, the steady beat of drums or footsteps or hearts at the summit. You find a stillness that expands. Once a great structure stood here, perhaps a temple, or the home of a leader, or both. From this height, all of Cahokia would have been visible. The plazas, the causeways, the smaller mounds arranged like constellations mapped onto land. This was not random. It was celestial. The city was aligned with the sky, mounds placed with intention, paths built to echo the rhythm of the sun, the moon, the seasons. Below, in what is now only grass, once stood Woodhenge, a circle of massive wooden posts that marked the solstices and equinoxes, an ancient calendar, a gathering place, a compass made of trees. You close your eyes and imagine standing there at dawn, watching the sun slide perfectly into place, the community quiet as the world tilted toward spring or fall. Not science or religion, but both braided together in observation, devotion, and awe. Cahokia was no empire in the traditional sense. It left behind no known writing, no monumental statue, no obvious signs of conquest, but it thrived. Tens of thousands lived here. They farmed maize. They traded with distant peoples. They held ceremonies whose meanings are lost, but whose footprints remain. Pottery shards, tools, charcoal layers from great fires, beads made from river shells. Their culture pulsed like a heartbeat through the Mississippi Valley, leaving gentle marks that time never quite erased. You walk down the mound slowly, your thoughts softening like evening light. There is no single reason for Cahokia's fading. Perhaps environmental change, perhaps social shifts, perhaps the slow unraveling of something too complex to hold. Whatever the cause, the city quieted. The people moved on. The mounds stayed, and the grass grew taller. Now the silence here is not emptiness, it is presence, the kind of stillness that listens, the kind that accepts. You sit at the base of a smaller mound. The earth is cool and solid beneath you. The air smells of river and leaves and dust warmed by sun. You let your breath match the breeze, your thoughts slow. There is nothing to figure out, only something to feel. Cahokia does not speak in language. It speaks in layout, in elevation, in symmetry, in soil that still holds the shapes of homes and fires, in paths worn by feet that have long since vanished. It reminds you that not all greatness is made of stone. Some is made of rhythm, some of reverence, some of the careful placement of earth upon earth, meant not to rise above the world, but to belong deeply within it. You lie back now, head resting on your arms, sky turning to soft blue-grey above. Somewhere in the grass, a cricket begins to hum. The city hums with it, and beneath you the mounds breathe. Cahokia hums beneath the grass, and you, weightless and warm, hum with it. No crowns, no scripts, just sky, just sleep. You begin in dust, but it is not the dust of neglect, not the dust of decay or forgetfulness. It is fine, soft, almost weightless, the kind of dust that settles after something sudden, something swift, a blanket, not of time, but of ash, light grey, silent, everywhere. This is not ruin. It is preservation, not collapse, but interruption. You step carefully now, your feet tracing the paths of a city caught in the moment before everything changed. The walls rise around you, low, intact. The streets twist gently, shaded by the ghost of what once was roofs. Windows remain, staircases still climb. There are vessels in corners, tables beside walls, beds of stone. It looks not abandoned, but paused. You have entered Akrotiri, the ancient city on the island we now call Santorini, once part of the vibrant Minoan world, now resting beneath volcanic silence. There is no fire now, no roar, no smoke. The eruption that buried this place happened nearly 3,600 years ago, but its shadow is still here, not in ruin, but in the stillness that followed. The city was covered not in flame, but in layers of ash so fine and thick that time was held in place. A moment sealed. You walk past the plastered walls of houses that still stand 2 or 3 stories high. The architecture is familiar and surprising. The layout is thoughtful, organic. There is plumbing, drainage, art, not the harsh power of empire, but the quiet grace of life lived well. Then you see the paintings, frescoes, everywhere, not broken fragments or faded outlines, full walls of color, hidden for millennia, now awake again. A girl gathers saffron from a rocky hill, dolphins arc over blue waves, swallows kiss mid-air in a field of lilies, red, blue, yellow, not just for the gods, for the people. These images weren't meant to intimidate, they were meant to brighten, to beautify, to remind. You step into a room where 2 antelopes face each other, painted in sweeping, elegant lines, like motion captured in breath. Their legs curve with rhythm, their bodies lean toward grace. You don't need to know the meaning, you only need to feel the stillness, the kindness of a city that took the time to fill its walls with dance. Akrotiri, like much of the Minoan world, held no signs of fortification, no city walls, no armies carved in triumph. Its people traded across the Aegean, exchanged stories, materials, ideas. Their power wasn't in weapons. It was in culture, in flow, in light. And yet, there was warning. The volcano gave it. Earthquakes, smoke, rumblings, and the people, wise enough to listen, seemed to have left. Most of them, at least. No bodies were found in the ash. No frantic collapse. No treasure hoards left behind. The homes were emptied with care. The city stepped aside, and still it remains. Ash sealed not only the structures, but the feeling of how bread might have risen in the warm kitchen light, of how laughter might have echoed up stairwells, of how eyes might have looked toward the sea, calm one moment, churning the next. You walk through this memory, not as a visitor, but as someone gently invited. You imagine the day the sky changed, the sea receding, the first plume rising in the distance, the light dimming as dust began to fall. A city that had never known war, now watching something far more powerful, not a human force, but the earth itself, exhaling, and still there was no chaos here, no fire-drenched walls, no frantic ending, only pause. Now, beneath the roof of the preservation site, the air is filtered and hushed. The excavation continues, slowly, tenderly. Scientists and storytellers piecing together what the volcano kept. You walk slowly, your breath quiet. Each doorway you pass feels like entering a memory still half awake. You stop near a window, its edges are smooth. Through it, sunlight filters just faintly. You sit there for a moment, not in awe, but in ease. It feels familiar, even though you've never been here before. The simplicity, the beauty, the rhythm of life carried forward in baskets and brushes and walls that still sing in color. Akrotiri does not rise above the world, it folds within it. A reminder that even what disappears can leave something vivid. That beauty, when made with care, doesn't vanish. It only waits. The dust in the air is fine and slow. Your breath joins it. You lie near one of the frescoed rooms, your body safe between stone walls that still hold their shape after centuries of silence. Your eyes close slowly, and in the warm dark behind your lids, you see waves, curved horns, crimson flowers, a girl gathering saffron in morning light. Akrotiri hides beneath the ash, and you, gentle in your breath, still in your thoughts, hide with it, not to flee, only to rest, only to sleep. You come to Ugarit, not by caravan or sea, but by sound, soft sounds, the hush of waves brushing a distant shore, the creak of timbers, a single wind chime turning in the dusk. The city is mostly gone now, but not completely. What remains does not rise. It lingers beneath the surface, beneath the dust, beneath the cracked shells of rooms once full of meaning. You walk slowly through low stone outlines, foundations sun-warmed and time smoothed. This place once bustled, it sang, it traded with Egypt and Cyprus, with Hittites and Mycenaeans. It was a city of music and scribes, of markets and gods. But now it speaks only in fragments, not in crumbling towers or great monuments, but in something smaller, deeper. A kind of gentle breath held beneath the earth. You bend beside one of the ruins, your hand brushing against a surface that once held walls. Somewhere in the soil here, clay tablets slept for 3,000 years, and when they woke, excavated, brushed free. Placed under patient eyes, they whispered stories no one had heard in centuries. Not myths carved in grand stone, but letters, words, a new way of shaping sound, a script, a song, a voice. Ugarit gave the world its first full alphabet, not symbols for entire words or syllables, but a simple, elegant system of sounds. 29 letters, each one with a shape that could be combined, rearranged, spoken aloud. They made the invisible visible, not just for scribes, but for anyone with breath and time. You imagine a young student crouched over a fresh tablet, reed stylus in hand, pressing shapes into soft clay. their teacher behind them, nodding gently, correcting the tilt of a wedge or the curve of a sign. It was not grand, but it was freedom. Language let loose from complexity. Thought made portable. A whisper made permanent. As you walk through the city's ancient library district, the air feels different, cooler, charged with the soft electricity of preserved thought. Rooms where tablets were once stored now hold only dust and light, but the feeling lingers that here someone listened to the world and tried to write it down. You reach the ruins of the house of the high priest, where the famous Ugaritic texts were found. Not just hymns to gods or inventory lists, though. There were many of those, but music. Actual musical notation, the oldest known. Lullabies sung to goddesses. Chants carried across rooftops. You sit in a shaded corner and listen, not with your ears, but with your body. And you hear it, a scale made from silence, a melody carved into clay. There are words for stars, for olive trees, for longing. There are names of gods now mostly forgotten, but their sounds still flicker. Their breath still moves in the breeze. Ugarit streets once echoed with many tongues. Akkadian, Hurrian, Ugaritic, a city not of conquest, but connection. Its harbor welcomed ships, its plazas welcomed stories, and for centuries it flourished. Then, around 1200 BCE, the same mysterious collapse that swept across the eastern Mediterranean. It fell silent. No great battle, no smoking ruins. Just absence. Perhaps a fire. Perhaps invaders. But in the end, what was left were clay tablets wrapped in collapsed walls. And silence. You lie now near the remnants of a small dwelling, where everyday life once moved in circles, meals, laughter, sleep, speech. The tablet you imagined being pressed into shape was not grand, not sacred, just a name, a line of poetry. A note. Even the letters themselves seem gentle, small wedges, tidy strokes. Unlike the towering columns of empires, these symbols fit in the palm of your hand, and yet they carried entire worlds. You close your eyes. Behind your lids, you see the flicker of a lamplight in a small room, a boy practicing letters as his mother sings a song to a restless child. You hear the sea beyond the wall. You feel the soft coolness of clay drying in night air. You sense the quiet satisfaction of language just beginning to take shape. Ugaret whispered in broken cuneiform, not broken in failure, but in transition. It handed language to the world and let go now, with your body still, your breath slow, your thoughts softened to symbols. You understand, this city does not echo through ruins. It hums through alphabet, through poetry written in air, through the way we shape sound into meaning and send it out into the dusk. Ugaret whispers in broken cuneiform, and you, lips barely parted, limbs heavy with stillness, listen. Asterisk, you do not need to read. You only need to rest. You only need to sleep. You walk now through soft grass along the riverbank. There is no monument to greet you, no carved gate or solemn ruins. The wind rustles through reeds, and the earth smells of damp soil and something older, not decay, but origin, before paper, before symbols, before time was broken into hours and minutes. You have arrived at Vinca, not a city in the way most are remembered, but a village that lived long enough, quietly enough, to become something larger. A civilization, some say, others simply call it a beginning. What remains here is modest. Shards of pottery, bits of figurines, foundations of homes that once stood side by side along the Danube over 7,000 years ago. But the quiet is deep. It settles in your bones like a lullaby hummed long before you were born. You stepped gently over low ridges and soft earth. The layout was simple, but not primitive. Houses stood in neat rows, walls made of wattle and daub. Inside were hearths, storage jars, clay floors smoothed by years of feet. It was not grandeur that marked this place, it was rhythm. The rhythm of return, the rhythm of making and remaking, of shaping life with hands and breath, again and again, until it meant something. Vinca did not build in stone, it built in touch. You pause before a small hollow, where once a workshop may have stood. This is where they shaped their world, with clay drawn from the riverbank, kneaded and pressed, then fired in open air or ovens. The pottery they left behind, still, carries the prints of their fingers. You imagine someone, a woman, a child, a man with clay on his elbows, rolling coils, smoothing a surface, etching a pattern not from words, but from memory, dot lines, dots, spirals. These marks repeat again and again, not randomly, but with quiet intention. They might be symbols, they might not. No one knows for certain. No alphabet, no translation, but they feel meaningful, like breath, held in pattern, like a thought not yet shaped into language. You sit for a while beside a low mound. In the breeze, the grasses hum against each other. You think of all the things these people never wrote, but still passed on in the curve of a bowl, in the tilt of a roof beam, in the way a figurine's shoulders slouch just slightly forward. Like she too is tired after a long day of warmth and work. There are no kings here, no walls to mark a city's edge, no swords buried in graves. Vinca was not a culture of conquest. It was one of balance, with earth, with fire, with each other. You walk now toward what might have been a gathering place, a circle of homes, a shared space. Maybe they sat here after sunset. Maybe they sang. Maybe they passed stories with no need for writing, only voice, gesture, glance. Or maybe they didn't need stories at all. Maybe the rhythm of the seasons, of planting and harvesting, was story enough. You close your eyes. The sun is warm on your back. You imagine the weight of a clay bowl in your hands. It's not perfect, but it holds, and someone made it, for water or grain or hands to be washed. You imagine passing it from one generation to the next. No inscription needed. The curve is enough. Vinca lasted for thousands of years. Then, slowly, it faded. The reasons are unclear. Shifting trade, changing soil, the slow migration of time. There was no collapse, only quiet, like a song that ends not with a crash, but with a breath. You lie now beside a scatter of potsherds, smoothed by rain and soil. Around you, the earth is full of fragments, not ruins, but roots, the kind of memory that doesn't fade, only settles. You are not looking at a puzzle. You are lying inside a whisper. Vinca remembers without writing, and you, breath slow. Limbs loose, head resting on the gentle slope of history. Remember with it, not in letters, not in names, only in rhythm, only in sleep. You arrive by sea, in the hush between sunset and moonrise. There's a softness to the horizon, a fading golden line where the Indian Ocean meets the sky. You imagine your boat rocking slowly, the scent of salt and spices in the air, sails creaking overhead. There's no rush, only rhythm. The coastline approaches, not with noise, but with light, a reflection, a shimmer, a ripple of color across water that was once crowded with dows and song. This is Kilwa Kisiwani, off the coast of what is now Tanzania. For centuries, it was one of the greatest ports in the Swahili Coast trade network, a coral-built city strung between worlds, between Africa and Arabia, Persia and India, rich not just in gold or ivory, but in rhythm. You step ashore onto fine sand, your feet sinking slightly with each step. The ruins greet you not as relics, but as memory solidified. You follow a path through fallen arches and coral stone walls. The material is unlike anything you've seen before, porous, pale, made from ancient reef. It glows faintly in moonlight, as if the sea left behind pieces of its body in the shape of houses, mosques, and markets. You touch one wall, and it's warm with memory. Kilwa's builders didn't carve from mountains. They built with the ocean. The city grew by breathing with the tide, rising with monsoon winds, falling silent in the spaces between sails. You enter the remains of the great mosque, once one of the largest in sub-Saharan Africa. There are no domes now, no carpets, no call to prayer echoing through high minarets, just columns rising like tree trunks, and light slipping in between them like water through stone. You walk barefoot on the worn floor, and though it is long, quiet, it still feels reverent, a place where sky once met earth through breath and stillness. Kilwa was more than a religious center. It was a node in a vast web of trade. Gold from inland kingdoms passed through here. So did ivory, ambergris, ceramics, textiles, coins. In return came perfume, porcelain, silks. Languages mingled in the streets: Swahili, Arabic, Persian, Hindi, the music of merchants and sailors. Every exchange left behind something invisible, a story, a scent, a way of seeing. You pass through the ruins of the palace complex, where once sat rulers who governed not with armies, but with access. The Husuni Kubwa, they called it, a sprawling coral stone palace with over 100 rooms, storerooms, terraces. Now it is open to sky, vines curling through window frames, the sea wind whispering through rooms once filled with voices. There are no thrones left, no jewels scattered across the stone, but the symmetry still sings. You walk from one chamber to another, each one opening like a breath. You imagine someone standing in a doorway long ago, watching ships pull into harbor with saffron and cinnamon, hearing drums echo from the town square. A ruler, perhaps, a servant, a poet, and now you. You sit beneath a crumbling arch, its curves still elegant despite the weight of years. The night deepens. Stars gather above you in quiet clusters. The sea laps gently against stone steps once used to load goods, unload dreams. Kilwa didn't fall with fire or war. It faded. Trade routes shifted. Empires rose elsewhere. The coral wore down under wind, yet it remained half asleep, half remembered, fully present to those who listen slowly. You listen now, not for stories of conquest or collapse, but for the way time can fold into tide. Kilwa still dreams. You feel it in the breath of the breeze, in the way moonlight lingers on coral, in the stillness of an arch that once opened to the world. You lie back in the sand, your head resting where the ocean once touched shore. The scent of salt is still in the air. So is a kind of music, the hush between waves, the echo of language, long blended. You close your eyes, and you don't fall asleep. You rise into it, slow and soft, Carried like a dhow on a moonlit current, Kilwa dreams in coral stone. And you, gently dissolving into memory and tide, drift with it. No maps, number, names, just waves, just sleep.